After the recent injury to Kalif Raymond, we don't know the severity of it yet, but Dan Campbell said in his press conference today that it could be season ending. They don't know yet. They need a second look at it to know, which will probably happen tomorrow. He is questionable for this week, but again, I'm 95% sure he will be out this week. And there's a good chance he's going to miss multiple weeks and get placed on IR. So we're going to be looking at free agent wide receivers and punt returners the Lions could add, because we also did waive Isaiah Williams a couple of weeks ago, and we have not replaced him yet. Now, you could say we did, because we did bring back Marquise Alexander to the practice squad, but we didn't replace him in terms of getting a guy on the 53-man roster. So we're going to be looking at free agents here. Now, who could be the punt returner for the Detroit Lions to replace Kalif Raymond if the injury is significant? Now, you got two guys on the practice squad, arguably all three of them. You have three wide receivers on the practice squad. Tom Kennedy, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Marquise Alexander. Now, all of those three guys can punt return. Donovan Peoples-Jones, punt return with the Browns. He did punt return a couple of games last season for us. One or two games when Raymond got hurt last year. He did not look very good. Now, I understand why he played punt return. He's not a very fast guy. He can't, he doesn't have that acceleration like Raymond does, but he can break tackles. He can stay up on his feet. That's why he was a punt returner. Now, I would not like that Donovan Peoples-Jones as my number one punt returner. I'm going to be honest. Just did not show a lot to me to like, oh yeah, this guy stands out on the punt returning, and he could be a very good punt returner to fill in for Raymond. I don't see that. Now, Marquise Alexander probably is the most likely option to replace Kalif Raymond. They'll probably just elevate him for 3 games, see what he can do in the punt return game, and then make a decision from there. He was in the UFL, XFL, USFL, whatever you want to call it, and was the best punt returner in the league, or was nominated for the best punt return in the league there. So he can return. Was a very good kick returner in preseason for us this year and last year. So he's most likely the option, but maybe we could go outside the house and look at a guy not on the Detroit Lions. So, and again, Tom Kennedy, I don't think Tom Kennedy's, he played punt returner for a little bit, or for us a little bit, I believe, in the preseason, and he did play kick returner for the 2 games he got elevated for us this year. So, he could be an option, but I doubt it, and he's only got 1 elevation remaining. So, I doubt it. But here's the guys outside that are not on a team currently that I could see the Lions potentially looking to be the new punt return and fill in for Raymond and Isaiah Williams in the wide receiver room on the 53-man roster. Best wide receiver free agents, according to Pro Football Analysts: Michael Thomas, Corey Davis, Alex Erickson, Lynn Bowden, Randall Cobb, Richie James, Chase Claypool, James Washington, Willie Snead, Demir Byrd, Darius Fountain, Isaiah McKenzie, Robbie Anderson, Traquan Smith, Malik Turner, and Kyle Phillips. Traquan Smith just got released by the Lions a couple of weeks ago, and he's no longer on the Lions, by the way. I don't think I brought that up during the video. But I'm not looking at a whole bunch of receivers here. I'm specifically just looking at punt returners and slot guys, because we now need a slot wide receiver. We do. I mean, Allen Robinson can play in the slot. Of course, Saint's a slot wide receiver. But, and then Kennedy's a slot wide receiver, and so is Marquise Alexander on the practice squad. But you only got really one true slot wide receiver for the Lions right now on the 53-man roster, which is St. Brown. Again, Patrick and Robinson can play in the slot, but they're not known for that. They're more on the outside. And then J-Mo 100% does not play in the slot. So we potentially need a new slot wide receiver and a 100% new punt returner. So I'm not really looking at the bigger guys here like Michael Thomas, Chase Claypool, Willie Snead, even though I really like the guy. Not really looking at those guys just because we don't need that type of receiver right now. But guys that I think could be an option and for a punt returner and slot wide receiver for the Lions is, let me pull it up here, the stats, but the first one, you see him on the thumbnail, is Hunter Renfrow. He is arguably the best current wide receiver free agent. Him and Michael Thomas are probably the top 2 right now. He is fairly young still, 28 years old, from Clemson, 5'10", 185, former 5th-round pick in 2019. It says he's on the Raiders here. He is not, though. He's a free agent right now. He has 25 receptions last year for 255 yards, no touchdowns. Had a very not good year last year. Had a couple fumbles as well that cost them a game last year. Or maybe that was the year prior. I think it was last year, though. He played every single game last season. He only played 10 games in 2022, had 36 receptions for 330 yards and 2 touchdowns. The year before that was his career year, where he played every single game, had 103 receptions on 128 targets for 1,038 yards and 9 touchdowns. And the year prior to that, he's always been a solid receiver throughout his career, especially in 2021 and plus. Played every single game he did play every single game in 2020. Had 56 receptions for 656 yards, 2 touchdowns. And his first year, which was on the Oakland Raiders, same team, obviously, just different name, missed 3 games, had 49 receptions, 605 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So the guy has been very consistent throughout his career. And let's take a look at his punt returning numbers here. Did not punt return for the Raiders last year, but every single year prior to that he did. 2022, he had 74 yards. Year before that, he had 303 yards on 31 attempts. Year before that, he had 23 attempts for 265 yards, and his rookie year had 5 attempts for 38 yards. Has never returned to kickoff. But he is definitely a punt return option and a slot wide receiver option. He's been very consistent throughout his career in terms of averaging around 400, 500 yards throughout his career. Now, I'm just looking at this for depth and to be our new punt returner. I do not want St. Brown returning punts or Jamison Williams, but especially St. Brown because that's the dumbest thing I think that they could have possibly done. I believe he got hurt on the punt return that he did, one of them that he did. He took a big hit and he got hurt. Now he should be good to go this week from Dan Campbell, and St. Brown says he's good to go this week. But we don't need to risk that. I understand he can play the position, but the fact that this is our year, that we're in the Super Bowl window, that we're the best team in the NFL, and we hold the current number 1 seed and the best record in the NFL, we do not need to have St. Brown returning punts. We can go find a guy. We can elevate Maurice Alexander. We can elevate DPJ. We can go sign Hunter Renfrow. We can go sign some other guys I'll bring up here. Just don't have St. Brown returning punts. That's the dumbest thing you could possibly do. That's one of the dumbest things I think Dan Campbell has done all season is putting St. Brown at punt return. But again, Dan Campbell's been fantastic this year, probably number 1 and coach of the year right now. So I'm not gonna obviously criticize him, and he's turned this ship around. But don't do that again. That was not very smart. Now another guy that could be very interesting. I don't think he was on the list, but he is very talented. Marquise Goodwin. The guy is 34 years old. Was drafted in 2013 in the 3rd round by Buffalo. He only had 4 receptions for 67 yards in the 2023 season. Now, 2023, he missed 5 games. Now, I'm not really looking at this as a receiver option. But I'm looking this as a punt returning option. Now, the guy, let's take a look at his punt returning stats here first. Where's it at? Returning. He has not really played punt return in his career. He has played returner though. And he's very fast. That's what he's known for. So I'm also looking at this as a receiver, but specifically a punt returner. He can play that position, just really hasn't in his career. Again, last year he missed 5 games. 2022 was one of his better years. He missed 4 games. Had 27 receptions, 387 yards, 4 touchdowns. His best season coming in 2017, where he played every single game. He had 56 receptions on 105 targets, 962 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So Marquise Goodwin is also an option. He was actually, I think I was one of the first Detroit Lions YouTubers to put Marquise Goodwin out there as an option. I've always liked Marquise Goodwin. Whatever you want to call him. But always been a fan of the guy. Again, he's probably just going to sign he would most likely just sign with the practice squad, not 53-man roster, and get elevated and then sign to the 53-man roster. But the Lions have proven me wrong multiple times. There are a couple of other guys out there as well. Richie James is also a very intriguing option. Now, I don't know if he fits the culture here. I think he's had some legal trouble in the past. Former 7th round pick in 2018. Last year, pretty underwhelming year for him. 10 receptions, 114 yards. Let's look at his returning stats here quick. Last year, he played 9 games, was all for the Chiefs. Had 20 attempts for 200 yards on punt returns. Year before that, he played every single game with the Giants. Had 24 attempts for 174 yards. Year before that, in 2020, he missed 5 games. Had 6 attempts for 34. Year before that, he played every single game. 33 attempts for 264 yards. Year before that, he missed 3 games and had 12 attempts for 75 yards, and also does kick return as well. So Richie James is also an option. Let's take a quick peek at his receiving stats as well, and then we'll wrap the video up. It's a little bit of a longer video. I'm sorry about that. Again, last year, underwhelming year. His best year was coming in 2 years ago with the Giants, where he played every single game, had 57 receptions on 70 targets for 569 yards and 4 touchdowns. So I would be fine with Richie James as well. He could be a guy that would get signed 53-man roster, not practice squad, but he is definitely an option. He is probably the most overall punt returner and kick returner here. Again, I just don't know if he fits the culture because I'm pretty sure he's had some legal trouble in the past. Don't quote me on that. But he could be an option as well. And I was going to bring up Brandon Cobb, but he's really not done much in the punt returning space in his career. He has, but he hasn't done really much in the punt returning area since 2014. It was like the last year where he had a whole bunch of attempts. 2018 he had 7. His last return punt was back in 2022. He had 4 attempts was all. So I'm not going to bring him up. Randall Cobb. Somebody reported this offseason that he retired. Randall Cobb said he did not retire. Let's just pull him up here real quick since the video's already long. The guy has been very good throughout his career. He was not good with the Jets last year. Played 11 games, 5 receptions, 39 yards, and a touchdown. His best season coming in, let's see here, 2014, where he played every single game, had 91 receptions on 126 targets, 1,287 yards, and 12 touchdowns. And you see his stats right here. Not talk about it, just this video and go a little bit faster. The stats are very good, obviously. So this will probably be his last year in the league, and then here is his returning stats. Not a kick return, but he did play punt return in the past. And then the last guy here that I was considering looking at we actually brought him in for a visit before the season started, I believe during training camp, and that is veteran wide receiver Alex Erickson. Now, I'm pretty sure the guy is 32 years old. He's had 16 receptions for 232 yards and a touchdown last year. He kind of reminds me of Kalif Raymond in terms of his receiving numbers prior to Kalif Raymond joining the Lions. Very low, but he has played a lot of punt return throughout his career. And I think that was one of the reasons we brought him in for a visit, was for punt returner, but also receiving core was not good at the time because we did not have Patrick Allen Robinson. We didn't have them guys. So that's also a reason why. But here's his numbers. He did not play in 2022. 2021, he played every single game. Only had 3 receptions for 55 yards. His best season coming in 2019, where he played every single game. Had 43 receptions on 78 targets for 529 yards. Here's his punt returning stats. Did not return a punt last year for the Chargers. Actually, he was. He played for the Commanders in 2022. Only played 2 games. Had 4 attempts for 25 yards. Did not have a reception. That's why it did not pop up. But here's all his punt returning numbers. He also does kick return. He had a phenomenal year in 2018 kick returning. He had 40 attempts for 1,049 yards. His rookie season was pretty good as well. But he could also be an option. He's probably honestly the most realistic option out of all these guys. He would just get signed to the practice squad, elevated, and then go from there, kind of like Allen Robinson and Tim Patrick before they joined the 53-man roster. But leave the comments down below. Would you consider signing any of these guys? Is there anybody that I missed? Or do you think we just need to stick with DPJ, Maurice Alexander? Or are you one of those fans who thinks we need to put St. Brown or Jamison Williams at punt return? Leave your thoughts, comments down below. One Pride Go Lions.